We are live. I think we should go ahead and get started then. Bill, thank you so much for bringing us week 2 of the Young Innovator Workshop. And today we're talking about identifying business opportunities, or at least that's where we're starting. Sometimes we move into areas that interest people that are a little off topic too. So, Bill, go ahead. We're ready.
Thank you. Yeah, so this week is about identifying business opportunities, and I'll take a quick step back maybe before we jump in. But I would love to hear about our three guests this morning. Let's see, who was here first? I forget. Was it Suchita or was it?
Suchita was here first.
Okay, I'll start. I'll start in order of showing up. Suchita, you want to tell us really quickly about yourself? And actually, let me take this as a teaching opportunity. You know, when you're sharing about yourself, you're giving what they call the elevator pitch. They call it an elevator pitch because it's something you should be able to tell while you're in an elevator with somebody. And think about the last time you're in an elevator, unless you're at one of those really tall buildings in one of those big cities, it doesn't take very long. So just kind of tell us, who you are, where you are, and the problem you're trying to solve. Don't tell me about what you built. Just tell me about the problem you're trying to solve, and do it in about 30 seconds. Um, and this is a discipline, actually. Sometimes it's really easy to talk a lot about what we're doing, but then we lose the person that we're talking to. So this is just an opportunity to try something, and then you can practice it after today. So I want to leave you with something here at least. So Sushita, why don't you can don't forget to unmute and just tell us, kind of give us the update.
So, hello, my name is Suchita Srinivasan. I'm 16 years old and I'm from Connecticut. So, the problem I'm here to talk about today is called torticollis. It's a condition that arises in newborn babies, but it can also be acquired. And basically, what it causes is a shift in head tilt that results in from the abnormal twisting of the neck, and it can cause various different issues such as spinal misalignment in the long run. And the reason why this problem is really important to me is because when I was born with torticollis, and so growing up, my life was filled with going to the physical therapist, participating in all of these different activities, wearing a neck brace, and none of them really worked for me. So my goal was to kind of develop a solution that allows people who are kind of suffering and dealing with this issue to basically be able to solve it not only through physical therapy, not only through really bulky and obvious neck braces, but in other ways as well. And it's a problem that's extremely important and hasn't really been discovered or hasn't really been explored recently. So that's the problem that I'm trying to solve.
That's fantastic. And you did a great job of that because you added the why to it. So instead of just talking about maybe something that you were building and me maybe losing connection to it, you told me what it was and why it was important. And now I'm wondering, hey, I wonder how you're addressing this. So when you do a good job of this, the person you're talking to actually asks you a follow-up question. Hey, wow, that's a really big problem. How are you addressing it? So that's great. So and that's how you knew you're doing a good job of this. If the person you're talking to asks that follow-up question, and it's not just a polite question.
Thank you.
Latika.
Hi, I'm Tika. I'm 16 and I'm from Irving, Texas. The problem me and my co-founder Sanvi are trying to solve is the urban heat island effect, and it's basically where the urban heat areas are warmer than the rural areas due to the way they absorb and retain heat. And this could be due to the surfaces. And the reason we're trying to solve it is because Sanvi experienced it in a personal level, but also I think it's like a unifying experience for like people all over the world. Because like especially like in the summer, I think everyone experiences like the increasing heat and the temperatures that are rising. So we wanted to help reduce it and make it a comfortable place for everyone to live.
Excellent. Same thing again. Now in my mind, I'm asking, wow, I wonder how she's doing that. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Sanjay. Oh, good. There you go.
Hi, my name is Sanjay. I'm 12 years old and I'm in Connecticut. The problem I'm trying to solve is something called mountaintop fallacy. So why I'm trying to solve this problem is that my brother has this problem, and when he's playing like sports or activities, he always falls and gets hurt. And one time he got like a big scar on like the back of his leg. So because of that, I'm trying to create a solution that would help to stop this problem from creating more problems.
Fantastic. Same thing. It's great. So, now again in my mind, I'm thinking, how's he doing it? What happens next? So that's great. And obviously the three of you have, I can tell you have experience talking about it in this way. That's great. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here when I say it's so much more interesting to have a conversation about problems than about solutions. When you talk about a solution, you kind of close things down, you narrow it. When you talk about problems, you open things up. It's divergent instead of convergent. So sounds like the three of you are already using these tools already, but just make a mental note to do it as often as possible, because plus you never know who you'll run into. And when you share a problem, they may want to learn more or even get involved in what you're doing, which is a tremendous thing. So so the question for the three of you is, what's at stake when we pursue the wrong ideas? And maybe and there's nothing wrong with pursuing something that turns out to be the wrong idea, but what happens when we pursue the wrong idea for too long? What happens? What are the risks? Go ahead. You can take yourselves off mute unless you've got a barking dog in the background or something. So, because we have a lot of conversations. What happens if we pursue the wrong thing too long?
Maybe like resources that could have been that you used in like kind of developing or kind of pursuing that idea might end up, I don't want to say go to waste, but because you realize eventually that it's maybe not the best idea to pursue, all those resources just could have been allocated somewhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah, you used the important word, waste. That's a big company. If you ever work at a big company, they'll always be talking about waste and how to eliminate or how to minimize it. And you can never eliminate waste, but what you can do is you can reduce the risk of wasting a lot. So yeah, when you pursue the wrong thing too long, you end up using resources that could be time, money, people, your reputation, that you could be using on something else. So it's really important to understand which ideas are the right ones, and how quickly can we figure out which ones are the right ones, so that we don't waste money or time or resources that we could have been using towards things that have a better chance. So it's about risk. We talk about de-risking, making things less risky, and the way to do that is by learning. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. Did that already. So last week we talked about how to look at the world in terms of problems, not necessarily things to build. Having a bias to learning, and that the real definition of failure. And I think all three of you were here last week, weren't you? No, two. Latika, okay. Latika was, and Sanjay was. Okay, gotcha. Okay, and the real definition of failure isn't not being whatever successful means with your idea. It's failing to learn. So that risk in building the wrong thing, or following the wrong thing too long, is that that's a failure, because you could have learned much sooner and then moved on to the next thing, and that's success. And that's fun. It's fun to know what the next step is instead of having to guess. Guessing makes me nervous, makes my stomach kind of hurt. And if you keep guessing down the road, things get riskier and riskier and riskier, all the way to the end, when maybe the first time you show your potential customer, the person with the problem, this thing that you built, and they say, that's not going to help me at all. And then you say, well, gosh, I've been working on this for 2 years. What do I do now? That would be failure in my world. Whereas success would be in a week showing them a picture of the thing that you thought about building, and them saying, oh, sorry, that's not going to help me at all. Now you spent 5 cents on your solution, because that's how much a piece of paper costs. And then finally, letting go of pet ideas for personal or for real customer problems. So there's something called the founder's effect. Sometimes, when the founder of a company has this idea they think is fantastic, and they're really emotionally attached to it, sometimes it can prevent them from seeing it for it maybe not being as good an idea as they thought. So when you stay focused on your customer, then it's easy to let go of the idea that you had, and instead change it to what the customer is telling you that they need. So that's kind of what we did last week. And I got to go to the next one. So this week We're going to identify business opportunities. Which are the right ones? What tools do we use to identify them? How do we get good at it? Because getting good at stuff is really fun, but we all start in the same place, including me, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. And then just in general, how do we validate this idea and this customer? So I'll ask the three of you, maybe tell me about an idea that you had once that you didn't pursue for a very specific reason. Think about that for a minute. Think about, I had this idea, and but I didn't pursue it. I did something else. And what was the reason for it? And there could be a lot of reasons. There's no wrong reasons. Welcome, Samuel. I just asked a question to the group about, tell me about an idea that you didn't pursue and why. Oh, Samuel. Your turn.
1 second.
Yep.
I'm trying to an idea that I've didn't pursue.
Yeah, an idea that you didn't pursue and why. Was there?
I had this idea for this event. It was called Roadrunners. It was basically a high-tech car where other cars could pass through the bottom so that it would not cause traffic. I made a very big mistake, which was I found myself a problem and then solved it. What you're supposed to do is you ask other people and then find a problem from there, not just find your own problem. So because of that, I asked a few people about it, and they said it was probably a bad idea because there was just a lot of flaws in it. After we asked parents, friends, I think a few teachers, because first of all, the roads, they can be very different, which would be very bad too. And it just wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this then. How did you feel about it after people told you it wasn't a great idea?
It was actually already invented, but
it was already thought of, but it didn't work out.
Or more thought of. But turns out, after researching a little bit more, that idea failed miserably.
Interesting. So you probably felt good that you didn't spend a lot of time and your reputation on it then.
We learned a lot from. We did spend a big chunk amount of time, but we also now know how to get an idea. We learn from it. We learn from our mistakes.
Well, and then based on what we were just talking about, that sounds like success to me. So success is any time that you learn something and you don't have to spend a lot to do it. So thank you so much. Sushita, Sanjay, Latika, Alira, you want to share about an idea that you had that you didn't pursue? Philip, I see Philip there too. Welcome. Feel free to jump in. Doesn't have to be a big idea. It could be a small one.
Did I ever have a business idea? Wait.
I guess one time I was considering, I was brainstorming different possible problems that I could address with inventions. And one of them was glaucoma. So I was thinking of kind of using artificial intelligence to detect glaucoma, which is a group of eye disease that causes vision loss. But I decided not to pursue that idea because I realized that there are many systems, artificial intelligence and smart systems that were kind of pre-existing that did this on a very high accuracy level. So I realized that was a problem that maybe I couldn't contribute to, or others had contributed to on a larger scale. So it would have been better for me to put my efforts somewhere else.
Well, and what I'm hearing you say, just like Samuel said, you may not have pursued the idea, but it sounds like you learned a lot about glaucoma in the meantime. And sometimes in these learning journeys, what happens is, well, okay, we're not going to do this idea, but as we learned, we learned about this other problem that's out there, and now we're going to pursue that. And that's that kind of idea of pivoting that we talked a little bit about last week. So very cool, excellent. So let's go to the next one here. So once we have an idea, we want to make sure that we use the right tools to figure out if it's a good idea or not. And there's marketing departments at big companies talk about primary research and secondary research. Primary research is research that you do with people directly. That could be interviews. Suchita and Samuel, you both talked about talking to people. Those are interviews. Hey, tell me about your experience with this problem. You can send surveys. That's a type of primary research, but I'm always the one that doesn't much care for surveys, because the old saying is you can't interview a survey. But a survey can be a step zero. You can send out a little questionnaire to a group of people you think might have a problem and say, hey, is this a problem for you? How often does it happen? Some things like this, and then learn if it's worth going back and talking to these same people. So surveys can help you quickly get sort of a temperature of how big of a problem it is. And from those surveys, you can kind of feel, hey, this feels like a big problem, or this feels like it wasn't a big problem. Or you send it out to 10 people and only one person sends it back. That all by itself tells you, wow, if this was a really big problem, I would expect most of the people to send it back because it's a problem and they're hoping somebody can solve it. So sometimes just, how many people agree to talk to you or take your survey can tell you a lot about what you need to know. And then the other tool, kind of in the primary area, is these low fidelity prototypes. And low fidelity just means low, like they don't take a long time to build. They don't cost much to build. I talked a little bit before, sometimes instead of building something, you just draw a picture of it and show it to somebody and get their reaction. That's a low fidelity prototype, but you can have a conversation then about it. And if they tell you that they love it or they hate it, I don't care, because either way, I've uncovered some emotion, and then I can learn from that emotion. Hey, why do you love this so much? Why do you hate this so much? And when they say they hate my prototype, it doesn't mean they hate me. They just don't like this thing that I showed them. I can show them a whole bunch of things, and we could go through 4 or 5 different pictures of things, and they can tell me which one they like the best, and then we can understand why and which one they like the worst. Secondary research is when you pull data that's been collected by some third party. That could be stuff like market research data, things, what people like to do with their time, the kinds of TV shows people watch or how they watch them, trends in consumer behaviors, things people are doing now that they weren't doing before, or starting to do more and more every year, habits people have and how those are changing. They can even be stuff like competitor intelligence. So let's say you're thinking about a problem space. You can go out and look at other people that are also trying to solve that problem and understand how they're doing it. And you can then even come back with primary research on top of that and say, hello, looks like you bought this product from your competitor. Tell me why you bought this one. How is it working for you? Matter of fact, I worked with a team one time where they bought the competitor's product. They scraped the label off of it and put their own label on it and gave it to some people that was their customer. And then they gave it to them for free and said, hey, we'll give it to you for free if you'll talk to us every couple of days about how this is working for you. And it worked great because they were able to find out what the existing product was missing. Yeah, this product is okay, but it doesn't do this. And then the team was able to say, well, then we need to have this if we're going to be competitive. So great ways to kind of mix these things together. So when you talk about primary research, I'll get maybe some feedback from all of you in a second here, but talking to people can be uncomfortable, especially when it's younger people, maybe talking to adults, because you're uncomfortable. You're not sure, you're not sure if you're saying the right things or whatever. You feel embarrassed or whatever it is. But it's actually very exciting. And what you'll find when you talk to people about problems that they have, it gets very addicting, because you have these really great conversations where you learn something and you get excited because now you know something you didn't before, and it feels like it's pushing you down this path. So that's really exciting. Sushita and Samuel, you were talking about talking to people about your ideas. How did that go? What did you learn from those conversations? And anybody else as well, just jump in. I'll take you in order of who jumps in.
I had this like, wait, anyone else try to talk?
Yep, you go ahead.
So I had this kind of older friend.
Mhm.
I shared my Roadrunner idea to him,
Mhm.
and he said something a lot about like how roads work. Like you have roundabouts,
Mm-hmm.
you have U-turns, and that wouldn't be a great idea.
Mhm.
At first, I was a bit skeptical. I was like kind of like, of course, I wasn't willing that much to give up an idea I've been working so hard on. But after I talked to also a bit more people, they said it was a really bad idea. But that wasn't where it stopped. They also helped me find a new one.
Ah, there you go. That's fantastic, and that's where it gets exciting. Sushita, when you were having those conversations with people, what what did you like about it, or how did you feel after you had those conversations?
Um, I think like since I hadn't really developed a solution at that point, it was mostly just like kind of free floating ideas in my head. I didn't
Mhm.
really have like as much of a connect to the idea as I think maybe Samuel might have had.
Mhm.
But so when I was talking to people, I was definitely able to be like, okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I just kind of let the idea go. And like Samuel said, they also helped me come up with new ideas, which
Mhm.
was really helpful as well.
Yeah, when you say let it go, remind me of an article I wrote for LinkedIn. It was called Let It Go, and it was about, like the movie Frozen. Yeah, just got to let it go. Sometimes you have to let that idea go, and that's great. And that's good sign for you, because that means in the future you're not going to get stuck on ideas either. So that's great. Latika or Philip or Lyra or Sanjay. Some experiences that you've had maybe talking to people that could be customers of a solution of something you were thinking about? If not, we can keep moving. If you think of something, just jump in. Now, just to tie a kind of bow around this is, about secondary research is, well, where do I get this data? Well, there isn't like a place on the internet that you can just buy data or to download it for free, really. But there's a lot of resources out there. You can do web searches, and you can go to websites of marketing companies, marketing consultants. You can read their magazines that they have. And in those magazines, people will write articles about, hey, here's something I did. Here's this thing I learned about consumers, and here's where it's going. And then they do all the analysis for you, because they're really, really smart marketing people. And, they want to, they're writing an article for other marketing people. So spend your time, looking around, and you can just type in, hey, especially with AI now, tell me about some websites where I can learn about market research around glaucoma or around transportation. And you'd be surprised that the tools we have today make it so easy to do it, and to do it very quickly, and to do it for almost for free. So that's a great way to get some of that data as well. And you can use that data together. We use the secondary and the primary research together to start building our picture of the customer and the problem, so we can then start building those low fidelity prototypes to test with them. So how do we get good at this? We already talked about getting comfortable talking to people you don't know. That was the biggest problem for me, because I'm really introverted. I'm kind of shy, and I don't like talking to people. But as soon as I started talking to people, I found out that people were really interesting, and they had really interesting things to say about this thing that I was passionate about too. So that was exciting. Start with people you know. And I think, Samuel, you did that. You started with some people you know. That's a great place to start, because it's comfortable, and you don't feel like there's any risk. Have a plan. Anytime you have a plan, that helps. So in marketing research, they call it a protocol, but it's the list of questions that you want to ask. And even at the top of that list, you could have a list of things you want to learn. I want to find out if this is a big problem for people. That's right at the top. And then it's like, what are the questions that come out of that? And then you don't have to ask all the questions, and make sure they're open-ended questions. Tell me about a time. How did you feel when? And if you've been paying attention on our webinar this morning, those are the questions I've been asking you. I didn't ask you closed-ended questions, yes or no questions. I've been asking you, tell me about a time. I'm trying to get you to tell me stories because that's where it gets exciting, is hearing about real things that happen to real people. Sushita, as you're talking about, open up your mind to unexpected relationships and unexpected things. Be surprised. If you're not being surprised when you're talking to people about problems, you're probably not asking deep enough questions. So when you get all that information and you weave it together with your secondary sources and that sort of thing, you end up with an amazing thing called an insight. And an insight is a new belief that you have that's the sum of all the parts that is actionable. It's something that says, hey, this is happening for this reason. And because of that, we might be able to help people in this way or in these ways. And that's it. Insights, that's it. When you start having insights, that's when you get really excited. And then you translate those actionable insights into opportunity spaces. Okay, well, if we could help them in this way, what are the things I could show them that they might see as helpful? And that's, again, super exciting. Finally, when you have a list of ideas, maybe you've spent some time with 3 or 4 ideas, and you're not sure which one that you should follow. Well, rank them. Rank them by, hey, how easy is it for us to understand how valuable this is? How much would it cost? How long would it take? How big is the potential market for this solution? And how big of an impact might we have? And then you could actually rank them across those types of criteria and just add up the scores, maybe 1, 2, 3, or whatever for each one. And then you add them up, and then you don't have to do the one that scores the highest, but the one that scores the highest should be kind of yelling out to you, say, hey, pick me, and here's why. So that's sometimes a way. Sometimes people get overwhelmed. I've got so many ideas. I don't know which one to follow. Well, that's how you do it. You learn about each one of them. You set yourself a budget. I'm going to spend 2 hours learning about each problem, and then you rank them, and then you start where the rankings point to, and that's a great way to clear your mind too, and say, okay, I still have all these great ideas, but I'm going to start with this one because, and then that'll actually help your mind. Trust me, my mind's always got something going on, and I have to clear it out once in a while. So test. Low fidelity, show them a picture of something before you build a thing. Design with your early adopter customer, that person who's got the biggest version of the problem that you see in the world, and let them work with you. Show them something, and then show them the next thing, and show them the next thing until they say, hey, that's just right. So iterate quickly with them. Can you show them something new every 5 minutes or every 5 days, whatever it is? How quickly can you show them the next thing and keep them as part of your design process? And then we talked about the pivot last week, and then we talked already about this week, but pivot when necessary. Got to let it go. Just remember Frozen, let it go. And either try a different customer, a different problem, or a different solution. Don't ever try to, when the customer says no, believe them, is one of the sayings I like to use. Because they won't lie to you about not liking something. They'll lie to you about liking something, but not about not liking something. So when they say they don't like it, believe them and find out more. Cool. I stayed a little bit more on schedule this week.
But
what comments do you have?
Before we go, wait a minute. Yeah. Before we go, can everyone turn on your camera so we can get a great screenshot?
But drop your screen, Bill.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you. I always forget I'm doing that. Stop share. There we go. How's that?
Philip, are you able to turn on your camera, or Elira? Or both?
And then look at the camera.
Philip.
Hi, Philip.
Jake Mendelson, turn your camera on.
Nobody wants my picture.
Okay.
This is Alira, my sister.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Alira.
Good to see you. Thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate both of you chiming in this morning. I love your frog.
Yes.
That's the Pac-Man frog, isn't it?
This is the African bullfrog.
Ah, okay.
It's a little intimidating.
That is a lazy looking frog.
No, it's an apex predator. It's very active.
Okay. He looks like he's had too much to eat.
Hopefully none of those dogs or cats you have at your house.
Oh gosh. Cool. So anybody have any thoughts about what we talked about today? Maybe something that you want to try yourself as a result, or something you want to do differently or start doing, whatever, or any thoughts are good.
What I like about events that encourage you to invent is that it allows you to interact with people that are just, I mean, not that you're not close with, just new people in general. Much easier. That's why I feel like going to invention events is a really good idea, so you can interact with other people.
Yeah, the pie gets bigger when you meet other people, doesn't it? Everything's worth more. Absolutely. That's why I do things like this, because I get to interact with all of you and I learn something. And so I get bigger too.
And I've listened to Bill for probably a year now. He's my mentor as well. But every time I listen to him, it reinforces something I may or may not be doing right, even though I've learned it before. And I learn something new every time, whether he's talking to me or talking to you, you pick up things. So I encourage you to do this often, even if it's a subject, you might, we have four more workshops and you might think, well, I know all about funding. I don't need to be there. Oh, that's probably a bad one to pick because probably not everyone knows about that. But nevertheless, even if it's something you think you can then be a contributor to the conversation because you can share what you know, or you might be surprised at what you can learn if you just stop and listen.
And the best way to learn stuff also for me, because I don't learn very well, but when I do learn is by teaching it to other people. So that goes for all of you. All of you already have a really great idea of entrepreneurship. You might not feel like you're there yet, but you're there, but you're close enough. So if there's someone in your world, in your class, a neighbor, a friend who wants to try to do some of the things you're doing, be their mentor. Help teach them how to do it, because by teaching it, you'll learn how to do it 10 times better. That worked for me. And even if you don't feel like you're right, so I can't be a mentor yet, I'm not an expert. When I started doing this, I didn't know what I was doing. I just faked it for long enough until I figured it out. So in the meantime, you're helping someone, do something that they couldn't do. So everybody wins. I'm still kind of faking it, but don't tell Julie.
That's a very good business strategy. I might use that. Maybe I can.
Fake it till you make it, they say.
Yay!
Cool. Well, thanks everybody.
Wait, what's next week about? Let's see.
Yeah,
I think next week is about business plans. Let me look there just to make sure. Yep, it's creating a solid business plan. And this one, I'm going to be one of the students next week for sure.
So two things to look up between now and next week if you want to get a head start and you want to have some really great conversations. Look up something called the Lean Canvas, Lean, the Lean Canvas, and the Business Model Canvas. Those are my two tools for developing new business plans. And here's a quote for you for next week. No business plan ever survives first contact with the customer. So that means don't build a really big business plan, because the first time you show it to your customer, they're going to tear it up and set fire to it. So, but that doesn't mean we don't build them. They're still very important. It's just that we don't spend a semester of college doing it. We spend a few hours doing it, and then we go out and test it. So, so the Lean Canvas and the Business Model Canvas, those are your two web searches for the week. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me there if you want to have a conversation about it too. So I'm always available. Don't hesitate. I love having conversations. So reach out.
Great. Wonderful. Then we will see everybody next week.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you. Appreciate all your input.